It is Monday on the Tall Can Audio Podcast. What's happening, everybody? Welcome inside the TCA studio in beautiful Bytown, Canada, where I am not supposed to be. We'll get into that maybe a little bit later. Matt Robinson with you. As always, we're on social media at Tall Can Audio. Give us a follow there. Subscribe to the pod wherever you're hearing us right now. Happy to be joined today to pull me out of my funk, my grumpiness, a little bit. We'll see. Sometimes she throws an elbow or two. It's Michaela Schreiter from She's Got Game on the TSN radio network. What's happening, Schreids?
Matt, I don't know that you've ever brought me in to put you in a good mood. So this is a risky move for you.
Well,
let's see how this goes.
To be fair, it was booked before my grumpiness. So.
Yeah, you thought, hey, I'm going to be riding high in the
this
cottage.
Is it. I will be lakeside
to bring it down a bit.
To keep me in line, to keep things a little leveled out. It didn't pan out. I have not yet disappeared to the cottage. Hopefully soon, but you've been good enough one way or another to step in. How have you been, Schreids?
Well, not too bad, summer is here. For those of you who don't know, I'm a sweaty girl, so I'm living in my nightmare, which is 2 showers a day because I am just super hot and sweaty all of the time. So we have entered that time of year. I have the opposite or reverse seasonal depression where the summer months seem to be really difficult for me. See, I told you I brought the rainbows and sunshine on this podcast. So I'm good and I do enjoy summer, but I'm also just the last few weeks have been a little uncomfortable for me. I'm not going to lie.
It's supposed to be actually worse again for another couple days this week. Yeah, so
I love that.
Up to 3 showers a day for
perfect.
I'm the same way without grossing anybody out. This is a time of year where it's a 2-shirt kind of day. You swap one out kind of midway through the day, and it is what it is. I'm not going to apologize for it. Frankly, you should all be happier that I'm doing it.
Exactly. We do it for other people, not for ourselves. I also made the super wise choice to sign up for a half marathon that takes place in October. I signed up for it when I was in the depths of winter seasonal depression because I do both.
Sure.
And
I think they just call that year-round depression, right?
Just you just might be depressed. Yeah. So I have to start training for that very soon. And if there's one thing that makes the summer months so much better, it's voluntarily running for at least an hour. So I look forward to even further. There's a lot of laundry that I have to do.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. The other thing that I do for other people, not for myself, but I have a beer Schreids. I like to tell people about good local beers. It's not for me. I like to spread the word to help other people out. Are you joining me in a pint here this afternoon?
You tell me.
I think Schreids is having a Coca-Cola. That's my takeaway from...
Damn. I thought I was being all cool and timing my audio right.
If you can bring me down, I'm bringing you down too. This is what we're going to do. What are you riding with?
So I recently made a trip out to the east end of Ottawa, which I never do. Because nothing east of Saint Laurent Boulevard exists, in my opinion. But I did go out there for a tattoo. My tattoo artist moved there. And I stopped by Dominion City, which I never do. And I love it. I love Dominion City. But like I said, I never end up in that end of the city. So I just don't go there very often. So I picked up a ton of beer from them that I hadn't had before. And this is their Palm City XPA, which is a collaboration with Lost Palms Brewing out of Australia, of all places. I've had this before because I got a few
Dominion
cans of it. There it is. Right? The Commonwealth Brethren, as
there
we
you
say.
Go.
I've had this before. It's a very tasty. It's like an IPA. It's 5%. But it's a very nice. It's a small can, which we also don't get a lot of. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I thought I'd go with that today. A nice light one to ease into the afternoon.
Sure. I too have a small can, which Rob and I have been rather vocally against here over the last little while on the show. There seem to be more and more breweries leaning into this, and it's a trend that needs to stop now.
Okay.
So, I'm stealing his line, but Rob would often tell you, "Hey, I'm my own liquor control board. I'll tell you when I've had enough." Right? I don't need you making a decision that the small can is the way to go. But Dominion City is one of those breweries that has leaned heavy into the small cans here over the last few years. And I used to think it was mainly just their 7-8% IPAs or stouts, where you kind of go, all right, I see why you did that. And yet now it kind of seems to be a lot of their stuff. So this one I've got here is, like I said, also a small can. And it comes from a brewery, or a former brewery, you and Josh actually first told me about, but has since rebranded. And it was the 762 Brewery in Madoc. They are now called Gold Rush. I believe new ownership, and everything they do now is sort of mining themed. And so this is the Rockhound German Pilsner coming in at 5.2%. And as we talked about, at like 30 degrees, a Pilsner is a nice summer beer.
Yes. That is the one thing with like the hot weather. And like you said, spreading the good word on craft beer. Yeah. I like to also call it supporting local businesses.
Sure.
But it is a good time. One of the positives of the 30+ degree weather is sitting on a patio and drinking a craft beer, provided there's maybe a breeze and you're not like sweltering. Yep. That's like heaven. So I can't complain about that.
No, it's true. Look, there's a bunch of different stuff I want to pick your brain on here today, and we will get to in just a second the Toronto Tempo and how they have fired up in the WNBA and a game they just played in Montreal. But I do have to ask, since that game was in Montreal on Friday and you attended, was this a tough decision for you? Were you reluctant to miss at Blues Fest Limp Bizkit on Friday night? Was that a tough call for you?
Yes, it was a moral quandary, as Fred Durst would probably say.
Fred Durst, I promise you, does not know what quandary means.
He does. Did you see that photo of him circulating a few years ago where everyone was like, he looks like every bartender in Montreal? So it is ironic that I was in Montreal when Limp Bizkit was here. I won't lie to you. In grade 5, was a bit of a Limp Bizkit fan.
Sure.
When I was 10 years old and did not have musical taste yet. So there's a little part of me that when I saw Limp Bizkit was coming to Blues Fest, I was like, oh, that'd be a nostalgic night for sure. But
so Schreids has already pulled me down and thrown an elbow because I'm a couple years older than Schreids.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm in high school when in theory maybe I have arrived at a time where I should be forming better musical tastes, and I still liked Limp Bizkit then. And I, to this day, have some, I guess we have to call it now, classic Limp Bizkit in my music library. And one of the reasons I bring it up is we talked not too long, several years ago. So time is relative at this point. But we talked about, I can't remember if you had attended or not, but the Backstreet Boys were performing in Ottawa. Perhaps at Blues Fest, perhaps not. I don't recall. Did you attend that concert? Am I remembering this right?
I did not. Okay. But I have seen the Backstreet Boys, again, when I was 10 years old. My musical taste when I was 10 had a wide range.
Seriously?
Everything from Backstreet Boys to Limp Bizkit. So I saw them on the Millennium Tour in the year 2000. And I remember thinking to myself, I think they were here in 2017, 2018, something like that. And I was like, I would like to leave the time I saw them at that. I'm sure it would have been cool, but there's something about, I just wanted that concert to stay in my memory as a 10-year-old and not as a woman in my close to 30s at that point.
So you and I had this conversation mid-pandemic when you were co-hosting the show every week, and they had either just been here again or we were talking about that particular tour or something along those lines. And I said to you that there is something still dignified is the wrong term, but respectable about bands when they hit their 50s and 60s, and you can kind of anchor yourself with an instrument. And yet the idea of 50-year-old men doing choreographed dances and singing about some of the Backstreet Boys was a very different proposition and a little riskier. And I think the notion that I floated to you at the time was, picture your dad and his buddies doing these choreographed, and that was, I believe, the reaction you gave me that. And at the time, Schreids, we joked about, can you imagine Limp Bizkit reuniting in their 50s and touring around again? And sure enough, this wasn't their first tour, but yeah, whether it was 22 or 23, they do reform. They come, and I've used this line before. I'm like, really, Fred? Is it still all about the nookie in your 50s? And sure enough, Friday night here in Ottawa, it is apparently still all about the nookie. So.
Oh boy, I remember that conversation now. That's so funny. It's
predicting the future.
I'm so torn on that too, because like I'm a millennial, so I am the target audience of all of these bands.
Sure.
Like, and in the last year, I have seen, or last 3 years maybe, I have seen a number of bands from my teenage years. Like I've seen Blink-182 and Sum 41 and Green Day.
Yep.
And like I've had a great time, and like I love the nostalgic feel of it, and it takes me back, and like I am the target audience of these men in their 50s for the most part, touring and playing shows. And you're right, it's different. Like Green Day is watching Green Day, 3 men in their 50s just wailing on some instruments is so different than 5 men in their 50s dancing. And that's fine, good for them. I would never, by the way, some respect to the Backstreet Boys. Calling what they do choreographed dancing is extremely generous term. Their if I could learn their choreographed dances when I was 8, it didn't require a lot of skill. So it's not even like, it would be one thing if it was like good dancing, if they were talented dancers, but they are not. And so it's like this robotic, like someone taught you this 5 minutes ago kind of dancing. And that makes it even worse. Like if it was good dancing, if it was like really, really well done, like choreographed dancing, it'd be fine. But yeah, their dancing never looked good even when they were in their 20s. So like it just makes it worse.
It is. It's just so, and I'm with you. I'll see Green Day. I'll still see Blink. But there's something about Limp Bizkit and just the stuff that they would scream and rap about that feels different. And like an AC/DC or a Rolling Stones, like these guys tour into their like 70s, but you've got a guitar to stand behind, and it kind of, when you are a boy band into your 50s, it's a different vibe. And you were unable to attend Limp Bizkit, which I'm sure broke your heart, because you were in Montreal as the Toronto Tempo were. I don't know if they have a name for this kind of thing, but they were obviously going to do some cross-Canada stuff to spread the good word of the franchise and try and do this Canada's team thing that the Raptors and Jays have tapped into in the past. What was the vibe like in Montreal?
Oh, it was amazing. The Tempo were taking on the Dallas Wings, so Paige Beckers was in town, which was really like awesome for me. I haven't seen Paige Beckers play live yet, so I was really looking forward to that. And media at WNBA games or basketball games in general is very different from what I'm used to, because we don't sit up in the press box. We're like on the court.
Right.
We're like at court level, kind of behind the net. So that was like a really interesting vantage point that I haven't had before. And it ended up being a record-breaking crowd, just under 21,000. I believe it was 20,900 some people in attendance at the Bell Center, which is a WNBA regular season record. So it's the most attended WNBA regular season game of all time, in a city that doesn't have a team, which is awesome. And obviously the crowd was there for the Tempo, and they were cheering for the Tempo, but they were also there for Paige, because there was a lot of cheering for Dallas and a lot of cheering every time Paige scored, which she did a lot because she had 34 points in that game. So it was loud. Like Vanessa and I were talking at one point, and she was like, "I cannot hear a word you're saying,"
which is unusual. The two of you are usually capable of hitting a certain volume.
We sure are. Yeah, they drowned it also, which is very talented. It was wild. Like my hearing still hasn't returned at this point. It was a great night. We ran into a lot of people who made the trip from Ottawa. I know a few people made the trip from Toronto. Tempo fans are very dedicated that way. I've seen a lot of people travel with the team. So yeah, it was awesome. It was one of the coolest sports experiences I've had in a while. And this is Canada's team, man, and they certainly showed that.
Is there more of this? And I want to get to the reception in Toronto and how the team itself is doing, but is there more of this on the schedule across Canada? Are there other games this season?
Yeah, so they're doing a couple in Montreal. They play Sunday, but by the time this comes out, it will have already happened. But
right.
They play Sunday at 3 against the Liberty, and then they're doing a couple games in Vancouver as well. They're doing a number of games across Canada to kind of, drum up excitement.
Do you get the sense that this is a test balloon for the WNBA to see if those markets might be ripe at some point in the near future, or is this more about the Toronto team wanting to create a presence across Canada?
I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest. Like, it definitely is the gaining excitement in Canada, and like the goal of we see it with the Jays, we see it with the Raptors. When there's one Canadian team, that's Canada's team.
Right.
And I think they really want that for the Tempo, which has already happened. But they want, fans in Vancouver to feel as connected with this team as they do the Jays. So I think like it is part of that. But also like the WNBA has done games in other Canadian markets that before the Tempo got here, like last year. Before the Tempo played, obviously. It was the year before they joined the league.
Yep.
They did a game in Vancouver with the Seattle Storm. They did a game in Edmonton, I believe. And obviously we've seen games in Toronto before the Tempo got here. So I do think there's a bit of testing happening there as well. So it's kind of like a two birds,
Sure.
one stone situation where they're trying to drum up excitement throughout the country for this new team, but also, checking out these markets and seeing what's viable.
What has it been like around Toronto? I checked the record here not too long ago. They seem to be, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of middle of the pack at this point, which is no slouch for an expansion franchise. I watched most of the first game on TSN, the home opener there. The franchise looked like they did a really nice job with that. But as you know, men's or women's basketball is not really my top. How has it been? Like, has it been consistently well supported in Toronto since then? Are they sort of kind of trying to still find their footing? What's it been looking like down at I believe they're set up at the Coca-Cola Coliseum there.
Yeah. So far, like from a support standpoint, vibes are high.
Yeah.
I said it so I went to the home opener, and I think I was talking about it on She's Got Game on the TSN radio network. That
every weekend.
It didn't feel like this is an expansion team. It felt like this is a city that's been waiting for a team for a long time. Like it felt like a gap was being filled versus like a new team and a new fan base. Like Toronto is an amazing basketball city.
Sure.
And you could tell the fans in the stadium were not new to the WNBA. They have been waiting for this for a long time. I know that right now, like the game, getting tickets at Coca-Cola Coliseum is next to impossible for like any game.
Oh wow!
Because it's a medium-sized venue. It's about 10,000 people,
Yep.
So like sells out really quickly. They have a handful of games at Scotiabank Arena that I think are obviously kind of testing that venue as well and giving them more of an opportunity for more people to go. But outside of the bigger stadium games, like it's the hottest ticket in town this summer because of the fewer available tickets, right? I feel like they've already kind of outgrown Coca-Cola Coliseum and they're a few weeks in, but like I do think it's a perfect starting venue for them, and I do see them one day moving into Scotiabank Arena.
You mean like 3 weeks into the PWHL at Maple Leaf Gardens, you're like, oh yeah, no, this was too small from minute one.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it felt very similar. Like I know it's the home opener, but like I had to get tickets to that, and it was like a standing room only. I paid just under $200. Like, and I've looked at tickets to other Coca-Cola games, and it's not much different. Like it's a hot ticket. You walk around the city and like you see Tempo stuff everywhere, and it just seems like the city was waiting for it. So yeah, performance wise, I would say Marina Maybury, by the way, is having like just a fantastic year. She's literally broken records for the most points or tied a record for the most points in a game a few weeks ago. Like she's having an amazing season, but the team itself is very middling. They'll go on like a 3-game win streak and then lose 4 in a row. So it's, up and down, up and down. They're outside of a playoff spot right now, but they have been hovering around the 500 mark for the most part. But from a support standpoint, like this city was itching for a WNBA team, and you can tell.
I've seen like it on my social media a lot. Like you said, the merch is hard to get your hands on at this point. Like people are enjoying that quite a bit. I'm curious, when you looked at the way expansion was done, and this will come up again a little later on when we talk some PWHL, but when you saw how they put together the team through the expansion draft, through free agency, and the opportunities given to the team, is this sort of performance-wise what you would have expected, or have they overperformed, underperformed thus far into the season?
Very much what I would have expected. Last year, the Golden State Valkyries, which were the expansion team at the time, they made the playoffs, and they were the first expansion team in WNBA history to do so. So it's not common for an expansion team to do well. The rules in WNBA are much more similar versus the PWHL to like some of the more major men's leagues in North America, where like you essentially have access to the best bench players of the rest of the league.
Right.
You're not going to get a whole lot of starters. But what ends up happening, and this is exactly what the Toronto Tempo have experienced, where you get players like Marina Mayberry and Brittany Sykes, who were always depth players on their other teams, but now that they have an opportunity to be a starter and to be a star, they've really grown into that. Like they were waiting for that opportunity, and you've seen them kind of take it and run with it. So the Tempo have, like, in Sykes and Mayberry, like, some really good players who have the potential to be stars, who already are, like, so far based on their performances this year. But, like, the rest are very, very good, but very depth-based players. So I think they're doing exactly how I expected them to do. The Golden State Valkyries last year were the anomaly. I think they were the exception, not the rule. So I'm
the
not
Vegas
even
Golden
saying
Knights versus the Seattle Kraken kind of thing.
yeah, like, kind of.
Right.
And now, like, Golden State's in third in the
Okay,
standing.
yeah.
It's like they're having a year. Yeah. And sometimes you do see that, though, right? Where it's like a bunch of players who were rejected by their team, who weren't protected, who feel like they've been, kind of slighted by the rest of the league. They join a team, they band together, and that kind of creates this, like, band of island of misfit toys that does really well. And that's exactly kind of what we saw with Golden State. We have yet to see that really with Toronto outside of Sykes and Mayberry, but like, I still wouldn't be surprised if they went on a bit of a run and challenge for a playoff spot. Like, they are still in the conversation, and they've been up and down. But yeah, it's pretty much exactly what you expect from an expansion team.
I didn't have this on the agenda I sent you, although I did text you about it this morning. And at UFC 329 on Saturday night, Sophie Cunningham was in attendance. I guess it was decided at, like, the very last minute. She said to somebody in charge, they knew she was coming, like, she's a well-known enough athlete and star or whatever else. But somebody got the idea, do you want to do the octagon girl thing, the ring girl thing, when you step up onto the side of the octagon, hold up the round number and walk up? Now, they didn't put her in the bikini that some of these girls used to do this and still sometimes do this in, anything like that. It's what she showed up in. And I'm curious what your takeaway would be on this, because I think, and look, the politics are what they are of the UFC at this point, but it was the Conor McGregor fight. It's a big audience. It had been well hyped. This is also someone who is very well known in the WNBA, but not necessarily a star player, or not necessarily based on their talent. You'll correct me if I'm kind of wrong on that. Sometimes your personality outshines your place in the league. Is this a worthwhile attempt for the WNBA to try and grab some new fans, or was this just a one-off, I'm here, I'm in the area, I like the sport, I want to go? Like, how would you view this as a WNBA fan? That's pretty much it. I'm going to try to choose my words very carefully here. It did not surprise me at all that it was Sophie Cunningham doing this. Of all the WNBA players, she is who I would suspect would be a UFC fan and who would identify strongest with other UFC fans. Okay. Yep.
I don't mean that in a complimentary way.
Nope. That hurt me a little too. Yep.
And you're right. She is not like people will say she's a star. She's not. She averages 9 points a game. She's like a depth player at best, but because of her personality, she makes headlines a lot. She had the pointing meme that went around, which was objectively very funny.
It really was.
I did enjoy that.
And the things that everyone else turned it into were also
exactly.
awesome.
It was funny.
Yes.
But her fans that very much overlap with the fans of her teammate, Caitlin Clark, are not who I would say represent WNBA fans very well. Caitlin Clark, while she brought a lot of eyes to the WNBA, brought a lot of people who have very racist views, who have brought those racist views to the WNBA. I would say, despite, having more eyeballs on the WNBA is great, those fans have caused a huge problem and have resulted in a lot of black players in this league receiving death threats, receiving an increased amount of racist vitriol online, in person, genuine security threats. Like, these fans are not good for the game. And I would think that, Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham fans and UFC fans, the Venn diagram is probably a pretty tight circle.
Okay.
And I'm not saying all UFC fans are like that. I'm just saying, like, by and large, like you said,
we all
the
understand
politics,
who the UFC is tight with right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I don't think exposing the WNBA to those fans does any good for the WNBA, because those fans are not going to watch this game and celebrate a league made up of predominantly black women, a league made up of a lot of queer women, openly queer women. I don't know that those fans are who you want coming into the WNBA space, because we've already seen it happen and it has not gone well. So it is what it is. Like, if it was a little gimmicky thing, cool, fine, whatever. I don't think a lot of UFC fans are necessarily going to turn on the WNBA because of that.
I don't know who this was for. I didn't identify, and it's not to say there'd be none. There's always some, but I don't know how many WNBA fans who support that league for what it is are can't miss UFC fans, and vice versa. How many of the type of people who show up in a UFC crowd are going to go home on Sunday afternoon and see what the WNBA schedule is for that week? I could be wrong, and there are always going to be some. Mm-hmm. But I don't, other than just, hey, there's a celebrity who's attended our event, and there always are, like a boxing event, like they scan around and see whatever. But Sophie Cunningham's having a bit of a moment right now because of the meme and because of everything else she's got going on. I'm sure as much as anything else, this was the UFC going, hey, she's here, she's into it, let's showcase it, it's a one-off. And I don't know that it really, at the end of the day, helps anybody, right? Like, no. I don't know if it hurts anybody. You would have a better handle on that. It sounds like it might. But I don't know if it helped either entity. And maybe it helped Sophie Cunningham. And perhaps it was no more.
Exactly.
Maybe it was no more than that, right?
And if I know anything about Sophie Cunningham, that's all she cares about. Okay. She is kind of making her whole personality right now is just tearing down her colleagues, which is really funny. But I think this helped Sophie Cunningham. I think the best case scenario is it didn't push the needle.
Right.
Because I don't think we want a lot of those fans coming into the WNBA. Like I said, we've already seen it. We've seen what happens when people who have those views start to watch the WNBA, and it's really, really toxic and really, really dangerous. So I think in my opinion, as a WNBA fan, the best case scenario is this didn't make a difference.
One of those things that for 24 hours blasts around social media and then fades back into
exactly.
oblivion. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we saw make the rounds on social media from the NHL here over the last week or so, which was the engraving of the Stanley Cup. And there it is, top row, front and center. Tom Dundon, who is the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, nothing unusual about that, gets his name on the cup. His wife is there. That isn't uncommon. It's not always the case, but it is not unusual for his wife to, the owner's wife to also be there. And then 5 other Dundons, his kids, including one who is currently, I believe, in kindergarten or grade 1, unlikely to have contributed much to the winning of the Stanley Cup for the Carolina Hurricanes. And there's a bit of gray area here. Like, in theory, you're supposed to appear in at least 41 games or 1 Stanley Cup final game to get your name on the cup. But beyond that, if there was a key member of your franchise who had an injury or something else happen, you can petition the league and normally get what you want. But I believe the limit is 50 names on the cup. So you're talking about your probably 30-ish guys who have played for you throughout the year. And then coaches, trainers, whatever else you might want to do, management staff. You do run out of space fast. But if you want, I guess, you can find room for your 5 kids. At first blush, I've seen a lot of people saying, hey, the family owns the team. There's nothing wrong with this. I've seen other people who are completely just, this is unacceptable. This thing is supposed to have some history, some class, some tradition to it. Where do you kind of fall on this?
Well, as a Sens fan, it's always fun when I see other teams' owners behaving erratically. It is a little vindicating. This makes it just screams like Succession. Like I want the Succession show of the Dundon family 20 years from now.
I'd watch
when that kid who's in kindergarten now is like an adult and taking over the company or something. I don't know. It's just like it's I had never seen a situation like this, so I remember like trying to think about it. I'm like, I don't even have a comparable, but I remember, and you'll know more about this than I will. Wasn't it Mark Savard or someone on the Boston Bruins like had to petition to get on their cup in 2011? Like I want to say it was Mark Savard because he had the concussion injuries at the time, and he had only played like a handful of games in the regular season, and they weren't going to put him on.
This is ringing a bell. I don't have it right in front, but like you said, you can. And it's normally not a big deal. Like if the team says, look, this person's important to us, and for whatever reason they don't match the criteria, the league almost always just says yes.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me. It is worth pointing out on this year's team for the Hurricanes, there's a guy named something Nyquist. I forget his first name.
Gustav Nyquist?
No, not that one. A significantly less. He played 38 games, so it doesn't quite make the. And there is an equipment manager, who has been with the team since they were in Hartford, has been on the bench for 2,700 games working with the team. Those guys both miss out, but 5 Dundon kids make the. And you're just like, this is so gross. Like, you could have petitioned for either. And I know people are saying an equipment manager. Yeah, teams do that, right? These are part of your franchise. You got room for 50 or 55 names, whatever it is. If you're not stacking it with people's kids, and the league has stepped up on this before. When the Oilers won one of their cups in the 80s, Peter Pocklington, who was owner of the team at the time, put his dad on the cup. And the NHL, some people might call it petty, to their credit, I think went and X'd his dad's name off of it. It had already been engraved, so there's nothing, you can't just not have it done, but they just scraped it off, basically. You're like, where is that now? But I think once you have these billionaire owners now, as opposed to small town petty little millionaires, Schreids, if you could imagine, that used to own these teams, I don't know. It seems like the league has just bailed on this. And I have seen the Ilitch family, who owns the Red Wings. Someone came roaring back with that. Their 3 kids were on the team. Those 3 kids were grown-ass adults who at least had jobs on the team, right? We can still talk nepotism. And so how do you get those jobs? How important were you to winning? But at least there was a plausible argument that you were staff with the team at the time that they won. I got no time for some kid in elementary school getting on it.
That is objectively so funny. I can't wrap my head around that. That's one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. It's absolutely ridiculous. And if I would make a case for that equipment manager all day long, because of all the non-playing hockey jobs in a team outside of coaching and general manager, equipment manager is up there in terms of what makes this team run.
Yes.
Right? Those equipment managers, the stuff that they have to deal with, the way that they have to make it so that players do not have to think for a second about their equipment.
Yeah.
So that they can go out and play their game.
Awful. You land in some city in 3 a.m. The guys are going to the hotel. You're going to the arena to get the lockers ready and stuff for the morning skate. Especially,
NHL players haven't packed a bag since they were 13.
No, that's true.
And it's in large part due to these equipment managers. And I would.
Well, and the players know it. At the end of the year, every player will go around, because these guys are making millions, and leave $1,000 with this guy and the guys who take care of you throughout the year. And but by the time the whole team does, it's a pretty nice little end of the year bonus. But if you've been with a team for 27 years, 30 years, whatever it's been, I think you petition the league to go, that we want this guy's name on the cup. So weird, man. This is such a bizarre story.
It's one of those things where I'm I know there are certain rich people things that I'll just never be able to relate to. And being on the Stanley Cup when you're in kindergarten might be up there in terms of just I did not inherit the generational wealth from my family that this kid clearly has, and I therefore just cannot understand this world. My parents I had to inherit work ethic instead of generational wealth, unfortunately.
Terrible decision.
I know, honestly. So I just it's so that's why I referenced Succession, because I'm not since Succession have I related to a family less. This is wild to me. It's funny and unhinged.
Yes.
But yeah, when you actually break it down, it's also this is ridiculous. Like, what kind of late stage capitalism stuff is this?
Well, and I don't understand how the league doesn't see the list and go, no, right? Like, and the league doesn't even own the cup. It's a trustee thing here in Canada that loans it to whatever, and there's supposed to be, like I said, some tradition to this and whatever else, but nobody put their foot down anywhere on this, and it's insane.
The tradition thing is a very good point, because this is a sport that loves to wax poetic about the code and
the original
moral character. And
the
blah,
original
blah, blah,
six
blah.
hasn't been a thing for 60 years. We still talk about those 6 teams like they're somehow above the rest of the league, right? Like,
exactly.
Nobody looks back at themselves more than this league.
Every dressing room has a giant logo on the floor that if you step on, they will murder your firstborn child.
Hey, don't put it on the floor. No, that's not what
What if we just, and hear me out, don't put a logo on the floor. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Fired immediately. This sport is so stupid about tradition sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's all arbitrary, because why does tradition matter outside of the actual permanent engraving of names on your trophy that you claim is the hardest in sports to win? Mm-hmm. What is this? This is a goofy ass situation that just now I didn't even have an opinion on it when we first started this conversation, and now I'm like fired up because this is just the dumbest shit. And at the same time, I will sleep easy at night knowing that this child is on the Stanley Cup and Carter Hart is not.
Hey, I like it. That's not a bad place to put a bow on this particular topic. Although I will say in 11, 12 years, when this kid becomes draft eligible,
he better be good.
He's already a winner. He's already got his name on the cup. Take that kid.
His name on the cup. What's the point?
Bring in the leadership, or bring him in for leadership. I'm saying, like, he's guy's clearly a winner.
Yeah.
Schreids, we'll come back to the hockey thing in a minute, but I'm curious how much of the Boys World Cup you've been watching here over the last couple of weeks. And it has clearly been well embraced here in North America, probably in more than I would have expected. And maybe that's foolish on my part. Like, when these things get up and get going, if you're able, similar to an Olympics or whatever, to turn your head away from all the scandal and all the nonsense that goes into hosting one of these things, once the games start, people do usually pile in and rally around it. It's clearly been successful. Just in a general sense, before we go any further on it, how much have you been taking into this?
Yeah, it's really impressive to see that men have a World Cup too. I really love that for them.
Boys
I'm all
play
about equality.
The
boys soccer, who knew? Yeah, like I'll admit, like I follow women's soccer a lot more closely, and I don't follow like the club play of men's soccer quite as much. But every time the men's World Cup is on, I'm gonna watch just because it's like, when Canada makes it, and on the men's side, that's only happened twice, so it's very exciting. And like, it's a cultural moment, right? Everyone, for the most part, whether North America was hosting or not, like the World Cup's always a big deal. So I'll always like pay attention. And I will admit that I feel like with this Men's World Cup, I've definitely been more into it than I feel like I have in the past. I remember the last one when Canada was in it for the first time, it was like, oh, this is fun. And I was a little more dialed in. Mm-hmm. And this year, because it was hosted here and we had some games in Canada, and obviously Canada did better than they did in the last World Cup.
Yep.
I was much more dialed in, but yeah, like I was watching the England game last night. I've been paying attention, especially when you get to the later stage knockout rounds. Like I'll probably watch every game from here on out. But yeah, I'm not one of those people who's going to go out of my way to watch men's soccer in general, but the World Cup is always a big deal.
This is me. Like you and I've had this conversation before. Soccer's just not really I'm not getting up on Saturday morning to watch the Premiership or anything like that. But when somebody's running around with a Team Canada jersey on it, I'm probably going to watch men's or women's soccer, basketball, whatever it is, right? Like I'm one of those guys who just gets hooked into that element of it, and you can get my attention. And this did that. But it has hooked me even outside of the Canada game. You referenced Saturday night's England game. Man, I was glued to the one about a week ago there, England-Mexico, which was wild from Azteca. And there's been a few different games like that have been absolutely incredible. I'm like you. I will watch pretty much everything now throughout the end of it. There's only, 3 games left, the semis and or is there still quarter today? I think there's one more quarter today. No?
No, I think we're all wrapped up.
Okay.
I think the semis are set.
So you got your 2 semis. Yes, they are. You're correct. So you got your semis and your championship game, and those will be easy. And the monsters in men's soccer are still hanging around, right? These are big names that should all, deserve to be there on merit. And I'm just curious, does this do anything for you? Like, obviously, you will be watching next summer when we do the Women's World Cup. Do you have any belief that the success of this Men's World Cup in North America can carry forward momentum-wise in terms of people being engaged, people being locked up? Like, I think the reason I'm asking you this is if the Women's World Cup happened to be the year before the men's instead of the year after, we're talking about a full year off, then the Women's Olympic tournament, which no doubt people would engage in again, and then the Women's World Cup, and then the Men's World Cup. But there's this big gap where everything would drop next year and maybe you'd lose people. I'm sort of curious whether you believe that everyone's excitement about soccer this year can hold on and carry forward to a group of people that maybe traditionally haven't watched the Women's World Cup next year.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I feel like I might have a bit of a naive perspective on this, but like in Canada in particular, I think that it works a little bit in the opposite way where women's soccer and the success of our women's team has actually fed into more interest in the men's team.
Oh, I think that's true.
Yeah, like I think most of this country got into women's soccer in London 2012.
Yes.
And,
that was my on-ramp.
Yeah, we've been worshiping at the altar of Christine St. Clair ever since. And like now the men's team being successful, it's like, oh, that's nice. Like, that's nice too. And a lot of people are entering men's soccer who have already been following the women's team for a very long time. And I know that that's my very biased take because that's exactly my perspective. Like, I watch women's soccer. I do not follow men's soccer.
Right.
And that's just because I just don't have time. There's just so much going on. But like, I think in North America in particular, and I would wager a guess that there's a similar, maybe just a smaller pattern in America where like their women's team has been one of the best teams in the world for decades. And their men's team is participating. So like and I know there are a lot of people in America who do not watch women's soccer, but who are probably watching men's soccer right now. But I also think that like soccer fans in the US are probably have been more dialed into the women's team for a lot longer. Like the men's World Cup is not going to make them watch the women's World Cup. They were already going to watch it. Okay. Because their team has just been so good for so long. The 99 Women's World Cup was kind of their London 2012 where not overnight, but like that was such a defining moment in women's soccer. They hosted it, they won it. Like the 99ers are like a historical staple in women's soccer in America. And I feel like,
because the Mia Hamm and
Brandy Chastain.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember Mia Hamm being a reference on Friends, which is my 99 world. Yeah, exactly. Who's that kind of annoying girl soccer player?
Yeah, like women's soccer players were in the cultural zeitgeist.
Yes.
Like long before their men's players were, right? So I do think that like there is a similar pattern there. Now, are there people who are maybe going to watch the Women's World Cup who got into soccer this year because of the Men's World Cup because it's here? Probably.
Kids especially, I think, right? Like my nephew has never really, other than the YouTube stuff that he's got far too much screen time, and for some reason he knows who Ronaldo is and he knows who Mbappe is. I do wonder if this, now that it's real and it's in front of kids and young people, like, oh, that was really fun last summer. The comparison I make, and it's because I'm one of those stereotypical cliche Canadians, is to women's hockey. And before the PWHL, the whole continent would watch the women's gold medal hockey game. And people would be like, that was awesome. Like, where can I watch that next weekend? Like, oh, you can't see in 4 years. Yeah. And that has gone away now, and there is a place to go and watch. And so this isn't exactly the same because there was already women's and men's pro soccer leagues around the world. But if it's grabbed attention on familiar backdrops, right? You're seeing these 70,000 seat NFL stadiums and suddenly people are playing soccer in them and those stands are full. I think you're right. Soccer fans are soccer fans, and I don't expect there to be this massive explosion. I just sort of wondered if, in a general sense, you could reach out and grab a few more people, and because the women's is only a year away, maybe hold their attention a little bit longer than if there was going to be a big gap. But I don't know. It's just a theory, Schreiter.
I certainly think it's probably like I'm not so naive to think that women's soccer is quite at the level that men's soccer is from a viewership standpoint internationally. So obviously, I think they're going to benefit. Now, it's worth noting there are many reasons for that, such as it being illegal for women to play soccer until the 70s in England, and FIFA literally threatening to pull funding of any international soccer body that allowed women to play soccer until that time. So, like, there are a number of reasons.
Wild.
It is. If you want,
70s.
and I could wax poetic about this for hours, and you know that if you don't stop me, I will. But like, go watch the documentary Copa 71, and it is about a international women's tournament that took place in Mexico that had record numbers, and after that we didn't hear about women's soccer at all because FIFA literally shut it down. And we've seen that a number of times. Like, there are a number of reasons why women's soccer isn't as popular strictly because FIFA didn't allow it to be. So like, that is a separate issue. However, I am aware that men's soccer is one of the biggest sports in the world, and women's soccer, while is very popular, is not quite there yet. So, like, obviously there are going to be people who watch the Men's World Cup this year who gravitate to the Women's World Cup next year, and I do think the timing works out perfectly that way, right?
Sure.
I think in North America I'm happy about this. Like, we kind of have just a little bit of an opposite approach because our women's team got better before our men's team did. And I love that for us. I love that women's soccer was the gateway drug for Canada into soccer for the most part, right?
I think of Tokyo 2021, which was supposed to be Tokyo 2020, and the Canadian women win an Olympic gold medal. And we sort of leave there, and they're like, by the way, the men's team is trying to qualify right now for Qatar 2022. And it's only like a month or two away before those games start showing up on TV. And it was like this easy on-ramp. Like, I am pumped about soccer right now in a way that, you're right, I've told you the story before, I'm not going to do it all again, but of watching London 2012 on a 35-degree day at the cottage. Like, my dad and I are sitting up on the porch watching the women's soccer team, and neither one of us are soccer fans, but like, I'm hooked here. But Tokyo 2021 is the real, oh shit, right? Like, best in the world, psyched about this, let's go. And you roll right from there into the men's qualification thing. And it, like you said, it's unique, it's unusual that, like, the women have been doing the heavy lifting here for a while, and it opened the door in a really immediate way to, by the way, the men are giving it a shot this fall if you want to get on board. And it was an easy on-ramp. Like,
Yeah, I love that for us. I love that we're a feminist country that went, oh, men's soccer. Let's see if that catches on.
One of the other things I wanted to talk to you about here, Schreids.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Well, no. We'll start. It's always good to talk to Schreids. I was going to say the Charge and their move to Canada. Yeah. You're just throwing elbows at me for no reason.
You're luring me in with a false sense of security on a topic that I like. I know where you're going, Matt. Don't worry.
Yeah. No, it's true. We will end on a down note here after this. I'm curious, like, what you think of what I think was already pretty well-known news, that the Ottawa Charge will, after playing their playoff games at the Canadian Tire Centre in Canada last year, make this move permanent. It was made official ×2, it sort of feels like, last week when they had a press conference out there. But before anybody made any announcements, I think it felt to a lot of people like once they went out there for the playoffs, they were never going back to TD Place. It was a rocky year there, basically in a pissing match between the league and the city and people trading barbs there. In a general sense, is this the right move? Is this the right time to be moving out there?
Well, it definitely was the worst kept secret in women's sports, because when they announced it, when they said, okay, we have this big announcement on Thursday at the Canadian Tire Centre in partnership with the Sens, and I was like, okay, so they're obviously going to announce games there. And then I was like, I thought they already did that.
That's what I was like, didn't we already do this?
It was reported on, but it was like sources said. So it was never an official. I remember, like, we talked about it on the show. I saw the
What
official.
show? What show's that?
She's Got Game on the TSN Radio Network.
Oh, that show.
And I think CTV reported it, but it was all like sources said, so it wasn't officially announced. But yeah, we're all like, okay, we know what you're doing. So it definitely wasn't surprised. Yeah, after the playoffs, definitely thought that, okay, this is probably what they're going to lean towards with the fighting with the city between the PWHL and the city of Ottawa over TD Place. The reality is the Charge had outgrown TD Place as it is now, and they were about to make that arena 2,000 seats small, almost 3,000 seats smaller. Yep. So there was no way the Charge were going to continue playing there, and I think it would have been an insult to them to keep doing that. Not to mention, I don't know how many games I was at TD Place this year where the game was delayed because part of the roof had fallen. So it was time to move on. So it wasn't surprising at all. I do like the move. The playoff games at the CTC were awesome. The Charge have played 6 games there and averaged just over 13,000 fans per game. So it is a natural next step. It is. I'm very selfish. It's much more convenient for me, but I understand that it is not convenient at all for anybody who lives in the city. Yeah, I'm very happy about this. But it is going to be an added challenge for, they're losing a bit of the convenience factor. However, I do think there's a lot of opportunity to grow into this space. I certainly don't think they're going to be selling out every single game. Neither are the Sens. Nope. But I think there's opportunity to grow into this space. I think it is part of a longer term plan to end up at LeBreton whenever that actually ends up happening, when we're all retired and possibly dead. But nonetheless, I think that's the long term goal. And I think with TD Place, while the tickets were still very affordable, because they were selling out a ton of games. They were creeping up, The prices. It was getting to the point where tickets were going to start to become, excuse me, much like the Tempo and Coca-Cola Coliseum, because of scarcity and supply and demand. Tickets were going to start to get more expensive. And so I think there's an opportunity with the CTC to be like, okay, listen, we're going to grow into this space. We know we're not going to sell it every game. Let's make tickets super affordable. Let's make going out to a game with your family affordable, because a Sens game sure as hell isn't.
Right.
So I think there's going to be ways to incentivize people to make the trip out. There are fewer games than the NHL, and I do think that also works in their favor, because it's not like you have to come out here 3 times a week. It's not like there's 84 games or I guess 42 home games to go out to. Like, that there's a reasonable number.
Well, because this is the concern, right? Like, it's one thing for the playoffs when everybody's excited, or for, a 1 or 2 off a year, we're going to be out there. It's just a random Tuesday in January and it's minus 12 and snowing like hell. It is a drawback. It is less convenient, but the arena is certainly more professional. I'm sure it'll be nicer for the athletes. Whatever locker room setup they kind of get dealt there, nicer experience for the fans. I think TD Place has its charm, right, as an old barn and whatever, but it is what it is at this age. I remember, I want you to, because I have a slightly different take on this, Schreiter, and I think you and I maybe talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we were out for pints. I can't remember for sure. And I want you to tell me why I'm wrong. Because I found, and I can be so super wrong. I remember when the league first started, and it was like announced in like mid or late August. And like, by the way, we'll start in November. And we were like, we're not going to have team names. We're not going to have logos. We're just going to wear. And I remember for a minute being like, hey, like, why rush it? Like, announce the league, give it a year, get set up and do it right. And Haley Salvian had a great point in just some throwaway line that I'm sure was obvious to everyone but me, where she kind of said, "What? Like, people are asking, why not just wait and go? Because it's another year where women won't get paid to play." I'm like, oh yeah, actually that's a pretty obvious point. Let's just get going and figure out the details later. And that made sense to me. But the thing that I haven't been able to make sense of through this battle between the league and the city and I have no qualms whatsoever with the league saying, if you're shrinking this arena, it's going to be too small for us. It might be too small for us now. I cringed when they said we will never play at the renovated building, because my thought was, as you alluded to, when LeBreton is finished, that's the natural move, right? And You clearly want to end up there. Clearly the Sens are going to be open to that. And so just ride it out until then. And then I kind of got talked out of that and into like, okay, if you really feel that strongly that you don't want to play in a 6,500 seat building, you can at least stay there until it starts to be torn down, right? Like until it shrinks, you can ride it out and enjoy the convenience factor of being downtown and all these sorts of things. Don't go to Canada before you have to. And now they've gone. They are there now. And it just Schreids it. I'm afraid of, and look, I'm not afraid that it's going to look like the 67s when they went out to the Canadian Tire Center and couldn't draw 2,000. This is too popular. It's better than that. But I do wonder what it's going to look like in January and in February. And I want you to tell me why I'm off base, that they shouldn't have stayed where they are for as long as they can before making the move to Canada. Even if they're not willing to play in the 6,500, there's another year or two, is there not, before they would have to get out of TD Place in theory?
Yeah, so that I don't know. I don't know the actual timelines of construction, but construction has started. Like the Great Lawn at Lansdowne is
the outdoor stuff
right
yes,
now.
100%.
So I don't know when the actual construction of TD Place will start, but I will say, like, I have a lot of questions about how the hell the Red Blacks are going to play on a construction site for the next couple of years. And if I'm honest, it's fair. If I'm honest, like, I think this was the last year of TD Place because, like I said, like there were games, and I'm not exaggerating, where the game was delayed because part of the roof had fallen on the ice. Like, you can't, that's embarrassing. You can't, as a professional team and league, continue to play at a place that looks like it's a risk to your fans. So I do think now was the time to get out from we are a professional league, we are a professional team, and we have a right to be treated as such. Mm-hmm. And I think that was their point. I think the reason they strong-armed the city, there were a few reasons, but one was like they should be taken seriously as a professional league, and they weren't. They weren't even asked to come to the table in some of these discussions. And I know some of the discussions took place before the PWHL formed,
yes,
but there were several opportunities after that for the city to bring the PWHL or the Ottawa Charge to some of these meetings and at least let them have a seat at the table so that their voice is heard, and that never happened. And that's what the league was mad about. And I think they had a right to be mad about that because that wouldn't have happened with any other league. So I think this was the league saying, okay, we have a team in a facility who are inviting us out to play, where we will have a better facility for our players, a more professional facility for our players, a bigger facility and a better facility for our fans. And clearly, and I don't know much about the background in terms of how the Sens have worked with the Charge, but I get the sense that their relationship is probably a little stronger than it is with the city.
Oh, I would imagine.
So I don't blame them for being like, you know what, we're going to go where we're welcome and we're going to make it work. Because let's say like I believe, I don't know what the overall average was, but having been at pretty much every Charge game at TD Place, I think there was 5 games over 8,000.
Yeah, I think 4 sellouts and 6. I read up on this.
4 sellouts and 5 over 8,000.
Yes, yeah.
is what I got from
out
the
of
PR
12
guy.
home games. Yeah,
out of 12 home games. So let's say they go out to this Canadian Tire Center and they average about 8,000 for a little bit, or like most games are in and around 8,000.
Yep.
That's still better than shrinking themselves down. That's still better than playing at a facility where the roof is falling, and they have opportunities to grow, and they will find a way to do that. Like, I would rather them go into a facility where they can grow into instead of shrinking themselves down or playing in a facility that's not safe. So I do think this was the natural time for it to happen. And I think that they deserve a chance to grow into that and make it work. So I'm really not like, I don't feel super strongly about it one way or the other, if I'm being honest. Like, it felt like this was happening anyway. Let's do it now. Let's capitalize on the momentum and build from there.
For me, just as a final thought, and you can rebut if you want, was they were, no matter what TD Place became, the long game is that the Charge were going to outgrow it, right? So do we build a 9,000 or 10,000 seat arena for the Charge when the 67s clearly don't need it? knowing that there is a brand new 18, 19, 20,000 seat building about to open up, and the moment that the Charge can average 9,001 tickets, they're gone. Like, they won't be committed to this facility. They will go, as they should, to a bigger one. And so I didn't necessarily, you and I, I'm sure, disagree on that. And I do agree that the Charge could have been treated with more respect through this process. I'm never going to be the guy who is on side with taxpayer money for professional sports, men's or women's, knowing that unless the Charge are going to sign like a 30-year lease that says we will not leave, there's just no reward for the city. And so I guess my only question or my only thought was, do you stay in the current 8,000 seat downtown arena that is your home right now? And if you believe it's unsafe, then that's reasonable. You're there all the time. I'm only there a couple times a year. But I would have probably wanted to wait it out as long as I could downtown, then move to CTC out in Canada for as short a period as I have to, and then go with the Sens to Le Breton. The problem with my plan is that building anything, especially in the nation's capital, could be 3 years away, could be 8 years away,
It could be 20.
It could be 20.
And I'm not exaggerating. Shit takes forever in this city. And I don't disagree with you in that, like, yeah, wait it out. If Le Breton was 3 to 5 years away, okay, fine. Sure. I could see a case. Yeah. That's the problem. If Le Breton was 3 to 5 years away, I would bet my house on the fact that we are looking at close to 10 years before an ice skate touches the ice at Le Breton.
My goodness.
It is not going to happen anytime soon. You cannot bank on that in this city, and I don't think you can shrink yourself down. I also think it's worth noting that, you know, we're talking about the seats and the attendance, you know, a lot of that from this perspective. The dressing rooms at TD Place are also shit. The facility is old and not made for a women's team, and they're going into a facility that is made for a professional hockey team, which is what they are. And I think that there's a lot to the facility outside of what we see as fans that was also factored in here. So I think that, like, the players probably want to change in a dressing room that is bigger and more comfortable. Like, when as media, we go down to the press room for the post-game press conference. It's the referees at TD Place. It's the referees room. There are, like, paramedics that are set up because they have nowhere else to go. Players are cooling down in the hallways. We have to step over them to get into this tiny little press room that we can barely fit in. Like, it's not a professional facility for the capacity that the Charge have, including media. There are too many media for that space.
Now, I do know OSEG tried, and like you said, and it's an old building, but to accommodate the team and create space for them. Do you have an impression on whether CTC is doing the same, or will it just be you'll use the Sens room and the guest room, when you're out here, or are they going to create their own space, to your knowledge, for the Charge?
I don't know, and I should probably ask. But I would wager a guess that when we walk in, like, I imagine a dressing room will be, like, whether they kind of tailor the Sens' existing dressing room or the visiting dressing room or whatever, but there will be a dressing room that has a Charge logo on the floor that I can't step on. I'm sure of it.
A local legend, you could make the argument, may have stepped on the logo of his team and has made his way down the highway to the greener grass of Toronto, Schreids. Daniel Alfredsson will be, I was going to say assistant coach. It's not true. It's associate coach, which is
assistant to the coach.
Yes, assistant regional manager. Daniel Alfredsson. It's an interesting one. I've heard all the cases for and against it. You know, if he was going anywhere else, maybe it would be less of a bitter pill. No one in Ottawa wants to ever end up in a position where you have to fire Daniel Alfredsson with the rest of a coaching staff. He's buddies with Matt Sundin. There's a lot of things that go into it. I just want to give the wheel to you, Schreids, as someone who grew up and is currently not in a great place with boy hockey and annoyed with your team before this news. But just in a general sense, I could be wrong. I think I'm the one who broke the news to you, which was probably not the right person to break the news to you. But in a general sense, what you thought of the news that Daniel Alfredsson was leaving the Sens coaching staff and then joining the Leafs coaching staff?
You are right. You're the person who broke the news to me. So
Sweet.
thank you for that, Matt.
Yep. I was very sensitive.
Yeah. No, you were. You're very nice. You're right. And I debated talking about this on the air, and you and I have talked about this, but I will, just for backstory, I promise I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a great relationship with men's hockey right now. It should come as a surprise to no one who knows me that, like, it's been kind of a tough couple years to be a men's hockey fan. Between the Chicago Blackhawks scandal and the Hockey Canada trial, the fact that
did you
none of
hear
us...
Mike Babcock is hired again?
Mike Babcock, Joe Quenneville is still working, Stan Bowman's still working. Like, there are no consequences in this sport. It has been a really tough time to be a men's hockey fan the last couple years. And the Olympics were kind of the nail in the coffin for me, where I was like, I specifically with the Sens and Brady Tkachuk, I had tried to learn as little about him as possible in the last couple of years because I knew I wasn't going to like what I found. It turns out I was right. And I just kind of said, I need a break from the sport. And then the Sens, I think it was either just before or after the Olympics, where they signed James Reimer, and I was like, okay, we're definitely done. This team and this sport has been in the doghouse with me for a little bit because it's tough. And this is just my opinion. I'm not saying that everyone else has to do it, but I had to hear about how Carter Hart was potentially going to be a Stanley Cup champion for 3 months, and I hated every minute of it. Like, it's really tough for me to watch men's hockey right now. Brady Tkachuk getting traded helped. And I still, like, even with Brady Tkachuk leaving, I still had this, like, distance with the team in particular and with my fandom where I still wasn't there. And then I saw the Daniel Alfredsson news, and it, like, pulled me right back in where I was like, oh, I do still care about this team.
Right.
Fuck.
Well, I think I said that to you on one of my texts, like, oh, I think I might have punctured the armor here, just in one small little area, because there are just names. The example I keep coming back to, Schreids, on this end, is during the bidding process for new ownership, there was reports that Matt Sundin was involved with one of the groups trying to buy the team. Now, he was not going to be an owner. He was consulting. But there's a little bit of, why that? Like, why is this your only way back into the league, is to help somebody buy the Sens? Like, no, man, come on home. Like, there is kind of this weird, and no, don't go there. Like, there is a weird funk to it a little bit.
Yeah, it stings. And I don't even know. When they hired Daniel Alfredsson, I was like, yeah, eventually they're going to have to fire him.
Yeah.
That's going to suck. I didn't see this coming.
No.
I would have rather they fired him publicly. I would have rather they took him out to the town square and, like, threw
Stoned
eggs at him or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Like, what the hell? This sucks so bad. Like, of all the places. And I get Matt Sundin is there and they're friends and all this stuff. I get it. But, like, he had to know how this was going to look.
Oh, I'm sure he did. And that had to, I guess the question would be, how much do you have to care about that? And that sounds more harsh than I mean it to. I'd like my career to continue. This is the job being offered to me right now. I can only go so far here in Ottawa because the Sens are quite reasonably happy with Travis Green and the job he's doing at head coach. I got to get out of here, but I'm going there. And I'm sure he was aware it would not be popular here. Right. And so you would weigh that into your decision, your legacy here. Because look, coaches get shit canned everywhere. And in Toronto, if it doesn't work, he'll be fired in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. At some point, he will be fired and still be a part here of the alumni, right? The number retirement, the legacy games, whatever else they're going to do. You know, I do wonder. I'm sure it crossed his mind. I do wonder how heavy that would have weighed on him and being like, is going to be an associate coach somewhere else a big enough step forward that I'm prepared to do it in blue and white? Because we will, Schreids, be hearing about this again in September. The first time training camp opens and he's on the ice in the blue and white jacket, right, that coaches wear out on skate. And the first time they play each other next season. Like, we're going to have this conversation a few times, and I wonder how difficult a decision it would have been for him.
I hope it was a tough one. I hope he can't sleep at night. I wonder, like, what's going to be the first game in Toronto, in Ottawa against Toronto, like Daniel Alfredsson on the bench. I know they don't, like, will they do a video tribute?
Well, I was going to, because I'm sure they did it when he left as a player for Detroit, right? Welcome back to Ottawa. Are you doing it for a coach? Yeah, and
they have to do something. They have
think
to
so.
Even a tongue-in-cheek thing would be funny. Like something like, like an over-the-top video tribute of clips of him standing on the bench would be really funny. Like, do
or like
something.
different things he did to the Leafs. Like, would you run a video package like that during the first
that's
commercial?
A good one.
Yeah. Or
him just leveling Darcy Tucker.
Yeah, fuck that. And the fake stick toss after Sundin got suspended. Like, you could find a way to be like, welcome back, but like you said, be kind of tongue-in-cheek about it. Because I don't think there are moments where, like, you're introducing tonight's opponent and you ever introduce the whole coaching staff, right? Like, no. I don't think they'll come, but there would be one of those maybe TV commercial breaks where you almost have no choice but to acknowledge it somehow.
Yeah. Acknowledge it in a sarcastic and funny way. I think that's the best way to go about it. And you're right. Like, like highlights of him against
scoring
the Leafs
on
would
the
probably
Leafs
be funny.
And yeah. I don't think there are many
like, never forget
shots.
where you came from.
Yeah. I don't think there'll be many shots of them eliminating the Leafs, but I'm sure they're. I absolutely had to say it.
I knew that was coming. I thought of it myself. I was going to say it, and I was like, no, let Matt have it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. One nice moment here as we near the end. Yeah, no, I'm curious to see, to be honest with you, at the Leafs home opener when you do introduce everybody, right? The coaching staff and the trade.
What's the Leaf fan perspective on this? You guys hated Daniel Alfredsson.
Yes, we did, and. I don't know. I bet you he gets booed. Now, Toronto crowds are notoriously quiet anyway, so who really cares? But I don't know that because there is a little bit of that. The same way Ottawa would look at it and go, really? This is the only other place you could go to find your next step up in your coaching career. It had to be Toronto. I think there's a little bit of, really? There's no one else out there, no other associate coach. It had to be Daniel Alfredsson of the Ottawa Senators. Now, I think it's a little easier for Leaf fans because if you want to frame it this way and you want to do the online Twitter duels and stuff, we stole your captain, right? We won this round. I think it's a little easier, but there are still a lot of Leaf fans my age who are like, fuck the Ottawa Senators. I don't need Daniel Alfredsson on my team, right? Like,
yeah,
I think that'll be. Did the Sens hire Darcy Tucker, the guy you meant, like, or Gary Roberts as an assistant coach, right? Like, I don't know what those reactions would be like for the fan base. I bet you at the home opener, I bet you he gets booed, and then that's the end of it. Because at that point, afterwards, who cares about your assistant coach, right? Like, they just fade into the background.
And that's kind of objectively funny too. If they pan to him, I'm sure there are fans who would boo. I'm sure there are some who would cheer, as like you said, like
we stole,
we got
welcome,
him. He's ours
like,
now.
Hey, yes, yep.
Isn't it better here? Like I can totally see that,
sure.
and I think it is also funny that they boo him and then never boo him again, or because they never really see him again. But like, get it out, right?
Sure.
Like rip the Band-Aid off. Let us boo, but we're also kind of happy you're here because also. Assistant coaches.
I think that's the most likely outcome is one time we're going to remind you one more time, hey, I remember what you did. Fuck you.
Exactly.
Right? And then just be like, all right, well, you're ours now. And that's the end of it. So
all I'll say is I hope he runs the power play.
Fuck that.
Derogatory.
I know. All right, Schreids, we should wrap it up here. I did float the idea to you that we could talk CFL, but they suck. And you're not watching. I did not stay up and watch them go 0-5, and it's bad. And it's bad that we're in this place because you were a hardcore. You were a season ticket holder. I was a fan, not quite as hardcore as you, and now neither of us can be bothered to even, like, I don't know, whatever. It's 0-5 now. I
legitimately have not paid attention to 1 second of the CFL, let alone the Red Blacks, but I just looked up the standings for the first time, and they are 0-5. Yeah. Wow, that's bad.
What is it we should discuss, right? Like at some point, it's just, you're terrible. It is.
Exactly.
As you have been for several years now. So, Schreids, always appreciate it. You are on TSN Radio every weekend, and it's podcasted with She's Got Game across the TSN Radio network. Anything coming up we should know about here?
Well, Vanessa and I will recap our trip to Montreal and talking about watching the Tempo and Paige Beckers and all that good stuff. This week on the show, we did have Chris St. Clair, not Christine St. Clair, but Chris St. Clair.
Be honest, did you tap the wrong button in your contact list?
Almost.
Trying to get Christine St. Clair.
And I've made that joke with him before. He knows he's a reporter for the Hockey News, and he covers the Charge. So Vanessa and I spent a lot of time with him at Charge games, and he's probably one of the most knowledgeable people about the Charge that I know of. So we brought him on to talk about their off season, the rare male guest on She's Got Game. But we broke our rule for Chris because he's got a lot of Charge knowledge.
Sure.
So he kind of broke down their off season, their draft, some of the players he's looking forward to. So if you listen to this week's episode, that's what you'll hear.
Out now in podcast form across on your favorite podcast network. She's Got Game.
On the internets.
On the internets. She's back in pod form. I always appreciate the time, and it's not your fault I'm not at the cottage, but since I'm not at the cottage yet and will be later, I'll probably come knocking again this summer. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, somehow you're on the hook.
Yeah, you can blame me. I
will. I won't blame you, but I somehow will justify in my mind that you still owe me a cottage pod.
That's fair.
All right. We'll wrap it up here. Schreids, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
We are on social media at Tall Can Audio. She is on social media at Schreids, SCHREIDS. It's been a while since I got to do that. We will link to She's Got Game in the show notes and catch you all a little bit later on in the week.